Whenever I'm feeling small, I want to do something that's going to force me to be big.
Mm.
Whenever I feel like I want to hide, I need to do something that's going to force me to be seen. And I think so much of meeting the counter, meeting the opposite of whatever our brain may be wrongly telling us, and having the courage to go towards vulnerability, or having the courage to go towards movement or do something new or try something different, that's where that like freedom unlocks.
Welcome back to the Everygirl podcast. It is week 3 of January's Best Self Challenge, and this week is all about optimizing your fitness. So, of course, I had to kick off the week with the embodiment of strength, self-awareness, and standing in your power. And if you've ever taken one of her Peloton rides, are a member of the NKO Club, or are one of her 1 million Instagram followers, you already know exactly what I mean. We're chatting with Kendall Toole, mental health advocate, fitness expert, and all around inspiring force of nature. This conversation is so much more than fitness or even wellness. It's about survival, healing, and transformation. Kendall opens up about her journey with anxiety and depression and how movement became the outlet that helped her literally save her own life. Kendall breaks down confidence and the current body image culture with so much nuance and honesty. And of course, she shares some of the most inspiring and tangible advice to improve motivation and achieve all of your goals. She gets incredibly candid about perfectionism, healing, and what it actually looks like to rewire your brain and build a life that you're proud of from the ground up. This episode is packed with motivating, no BS life advice to help you reconnect to your power, get unstuck, and actually go for the life that you want. Whether you're navigating body image, want to enter your fit era in 2026, or you just need a reminder that you are powerful as hell, this episode is for you. Welcome, Kendall Toole, to the Everygirl podcast. Going way back to childhood, I'm really curious what messages you remember receiving or what you felt about beauty, fitness, your health back then.
Yeah, I think there were 2 sets of messages that I got. I think for many of us as young women, we received, obviously, hopefully, a lot of positive affirmation from our families, from the other women in our lives, like my mom and her strength, and people that I looked up to. I was a gymnast growing up, so I looked up to the older gymnasts in the gym and how strong and powerful they were. But then also, I think probably around 5th, 6th grade, that other type of messaging started coming in. Seeing the very edited ads in Teen Vogue, or, seeing certain brands and like the pressures to look a certain way and starting to compare yourself. So I think early on, obviously, the basis was so positive. And then I think for all of us, as we get into our teens and 20s, the more negative experience and the pressures to look a certain way, I think really start to permeate. Not to age myself here, but I am I guess I'm a cusper. I'm not quite Gen Z, but I'm also not full millennial. Like I'm like a early 90s, mid 90s girl. So I kind of have seen both worlds. I was on social media when I probably I think I got onto MySpace in middle school,
Mm-hmm.
which what a trip that we were ranking our friends. That's ridiculous.
Crazy. That was a
I can
crazy
see
time of life. Like, how do we
yeah.
even have self-esteem today?
I'm proud of us that we've made it this far. We're hanging there. We really are doing our best to try to pivot, I think, and prevent things from what we grew up in. But when you had teen or tween years in the early and mid 2000s, I think there was such an insane pressure on women to look a certain way, to have a certain body type. And this was we just started seeing the beginnings of Photoshop and editing and whatnot. But really, there was such a rhetoric around body image and body shaming that I look back, like I've watched like movies from like '04, '05, '06, and I'm shocked about how did they get away with that? How did they say that?
Like the Friends, like Fat Monica of it all. Like, there's so many things that it's like you watch it and you're like, how? How did that happen?
Yeah, how did we experience that? And it was so normalized. So I think as much as we can look at what we need to do in the world, and there's so much work to be done as women and as a collective, but I will say I am very proud of us that we've had these conversations, and I'm seeing a different level of understanding and of space being held for women as we are. Our bodies are all different. It is partly genetics. It is also partly just what you're built with, what your frame is. And so to try to expand really these containers of how we're allowed to be as women and how we're allowed to show up is really beautiful. And I love that we're seeing and getting to connect to real stories and real women's journeys. more than we ever did before because of social media. That is a positive of social media. I'm proud of that.
That's a really good perspective on it. I think especially in this time where we're talking about, we're in the age of Ozempic. Celebrities are now becoming like really thin and people are commenting on it. And I love the perspective because I agree, even though maybe we see some shifts in culture that is scary. I mean, low rise jeans in itself, I'm like, this feels like it's in itself a little like glimmer
Yeah.
of like, oh God, this
Too much
traumatizing
zippers,
time.
guys. Too much
Yes.
zippers.
Too much. But there is, I think, a really large group of women of our age group that are like, "No, we're not going back there." I love that you say, like, you're proud of us. I am proud of us as women that we are, like, fighting for our own self-esteem to be like, "No, I'm not gonna accept that as the standard."
Yes. I think that's something pretty beautiful about this age range and this generation because we've had so much exposure, for better or for worse, to really traumatic events from very young ages. I think a lot of people give a lot of flack to millennials, but I do think millennials really, really try very hard and are very people pleasing because just nothing ever really worked out. It kind of felt like you got the dozen eggs and like 4 were broken. And they're like, okay, make a meal with 12. And you're like, well, I got to figure this out. I guess I'm adding water. And it's always been such a shift of trying to make it work and make it happen and dealing with a recession when people graduated and then the economy changing and, both partners in a home having to provide. It's really shifted a lot in this generation. But what I'm proud of, and I think I want millennials in particular to remember this because the generation tends to be collectively so self-deprecating and quite hard on themselves, is that they're that generational curse breaker in a lot of ways. They're doing work. Like, I've never seen more people more willing to talk and go to therapy than this generation. So they're handling
True.
the generation above. They're trying to make it better for the kids that they're going to raise one day if they choose that option. And I just think there's a level of really good effort and try that is coming out of that generation that I really appreciate. And I do like the fact that Gen Z comes up and says, we're not going to stand for it. And they're standing on business to help keep that in place. So, as easy as it is to see what's going on in the news and to see what people are talking about with women and what's happening with bodies, which we do need to be very careful about how the pendulum seems to be swinging in a direction that we don't want to go back to. I do think there are forces in place and there are very loud voices, hopefully my own included, that say, hey, let's not swing all the way back there. We're not going to delete all the hard work that we did. Let's talk about the nuance here. GLP-1s are great for certain populations. They're an incredible scientific discovery that can help populations that struggle to lose weight. However, at the same time, GLP-1s are not for everybody. If you have lean muscle mass and you're just using it as a weight loss tool, I have serious concerns about that. I don't think that's right. And we don't have enough information on what that does to you from a longevity perspective for a population that doesn't need to be on a GLP-1, that doesn't need the assistance because they're not type 2 or pre-diabetic, that we don't know the byproducts of that. And we see the societal byproducts of women in the public eye who are getting thinner and thinner in a way that we all have our alarm bells like, uh-oh, we've seen this before. We don't want to go back there. So I think the nuanced conversation is really important, but I do think it's not as grave as what it seems. I don't believe in too alarmist of narratives. I like to give credit to the fact that, hey, there's a lot of people that have firm perspectives and are opinionated and outspoken and stand on their values more than ever. And I think we'll be able to tackle this in the right way.
It's so true, and it's such a great way to think of it that's so much more empowering and feels like in our control instead of this,
Mhm.
like, the fear that I think can, of course, be so overwhelming. So I love that perspective. I know you said before that movement helped save your life. Can
Yes.
you take us back to what that actually looked like, how fitness became your way to heal?
Movement was always there. It started with gymnastics, then it moved to dance, and I was always driven, and I did have this deep perfectionism just ingrained in me as a person. Thank you to years of therapy. We're still trying to dismantle some of that, but
Takes a
it's a
long
process.
ass time, yes.
It's hard. Oh my gosh, you can't it's a journey, okay?
It's a
It's a journey,
journey.
many chapters. It's like ACOTAR, there's like 18 books, okay?
Yeah.
We're gonna do it. Maybe in a different way. That might not have been the best one-to-one there, but no, I think what's been beautiful about movement, it's always been my touch point. It's been the space where I could essentially escape my mental for a while. I could escape my brain. I remember as a kid, my mom told me, she was like, "You would always say you wish you could just unscrew your head from your body for a little bit." And I think it was such a sign. I was diagnosed at 11 with obsessive compulsive disorder. that really manifested in my college years, my senior year of college, into suicidal ideation. I have anxiety and depression. I deal with it. That's part of what makes me me. And the beauty of finding fitness, finding boxing in particular, and then pivoting from a tech career into teaching really changed my life to understand that it's through physicality that sometimes we can help give our brain the space to evolve and to take a breath and to find its power. Because internally, the negative thought processes, these thought spirals I would be going down, the difficulties of what one goes through with anxiety and depression were debilitating. But I knew if I could move a little bit, it just gave me, it was almost like an emergency brake where it would give me a little bit of space to have a different input mentally. Now, of course, I have many more tools like breathwork and gratitude journaling and working with therapists and community and all of that. But I really do think movement was a key part in not only discovering who I was, but in tools that I needed that then I could also help others in the process.
And what was that healing process like for you? Like, did you start realizing when I would get anxiety, oh, if I could just like get my body to move and go on a run, I could at least get my mind out of that spiral for a second? Or what did that actually look like in practice?
What it looked like was feeling the need to escape. There were so many thoughts racing in my brain, particularly in college. On the surface level, everything was, I was masking beautifully. I had great grades. I was a cheerleader. I did all the things. I had all the internships, but I felt so deeply numb inside. So some of what the physicality was going to the gym to feel something. I just had to feel something
Mm.
physical. I didn't feel things emotionally. And now, if it gets to that point, I don't condone just using the gym, always going to finding another form of support, but it was a beautiful bridge for me. And that's when boxing came into play. I had a mentor who's a film director who I worked with in college and did some interning for on different film sets. And he owned a boxing gym in Santa Monica. And he was like, "You have a lot going on," which was a very nice way of saying, "I know something." And he invited me to come to the boxing gym. I was petrified. It was a bunch of men, smelly, gross, bloody, like, where the hell am I? And started training boxing, and I fell in love with it. And it was so beautiful because it gave me an outlet to, for all of the chaos that was in my head, it kind of alchemized into this moment of hitting a mitt or hitting a glove and being able to understand, oh, I can take this energy and turn it into something powerful. And so often when we're dealing with a mental health challenge or moment or phase in our life, we feel without power and we feel really isolated. Movement gave me the understanding that, wait, this is just energy that I can place in another spot. This is something that I can almost alchemize to finding out more about myself and feeling better about myself. It took a very long time. There's still good and bad days. I still deal with this all the time. I had a tough weekend last weekend, but I now understand and have the grace and compassion for myself. And I'm learning to have that more to go through these seasons and go through these moments. And it always goes back to the physical movement that helps me find myself.
It really is a meditation in so many ways. And first, especially people like I so relate to that. I know so many people listening are like, yeah, I know what that feels like. If I could just take off my head and turn off
Yeah.
my thoughts for a second, that would be really freaking great. So many of us have been there. And so when you're sitting in meditation and you're thinking, this isn't working, my brain's spiraling, when you're
Mhm.
moving, you have to be thinking about how fast am I running? How many more minutes to go? What is my
Yeah.
arm doing when it's boxing? Like you have to be physical in your body. You have to be present in order to move. I know there's so much science and neuroscience behind why exercise is so beneficial for mental health and endorphin release and the relationship with serotonin. But even just that energetic exchange of like, what was all this energy in my head is now having to be in my body and be
Yes.
present is such a powerful tool.
I think that's what's so funny. We all know that exercise is good for us, right? It's exactly what you said, but it's just displaced energy often. And I think when I gave myself the understanding of that and talking and working with therapists about that, it made me feel less shame about what I was dealing with. I think so much of mental health and dealing with anxiety and depression or whatever it may be, there's this feeling of I should be better than this. It's that word should. I hate that word so much, honestly. I love to cuss. Like I'll drop an F-bomb whenever. Like I'm being good right now. I'm being really good right now.
Listen, let your fucks out if you want, okay? We can
Well,
we
if
can
it's a
swear
fuck,
on this.
oh
You
fuck
can say
yeah.
fuck, you could say whatever you want.
Oh my God. I love it. Okay. I'm always trying to like keep it, I'm like, keep it classy, Kendall. But
Oh, no,
she's a talent.
Kendall, let her out,
She's got
let her out.
okay, right. Well, I fucking love that word, but I really fucking hate the word shame and should. And they both begin with S. And I have to remember to avoid the S's sometimes because,
Mm.
as we all do, there are these false beliefs that probably were implanted at that younger age when we were really vulnerable. And maybe the cute guy in middle school didn't look at us a certain way, or someone made fun of us on the playground. We all have those moments. And somehow you kind of start to shrink little by little as life goes on and you have these setbacks. And it kind of imbues this sense of, oh, I need to be smaller, or I should be able to handle this myself. And we quiet ourselves. And I think what's the most beautiful thing that I found with physical movement is that it gives me an outlet for where that shame button was, and it turns it into actual power. And it says, it's just excess energy. And I can convert that feeling of needing to minimize myself, and I try to push myself to maximize. Like, I wanna do the opposite. Whenever I'm feeling small, I wanna do something that's gonna force me to be big. Whenever I feel like I wanna hide, I need to do something that's gonna force me to be seen. And I think so much of meeting the counter, meeting the opposite of whatever our brain may be wrongly telling us, and having the courage to go towards vulnerability, or having the courage to go towards movement or do something new or try something different, that's where that, like, freedom unlocks. It's not anything that I've mastered. I don't think you master this at all, but I think you start building an appetite, and it's almost like building a muscle for doing the opposite of what your brain may be telling you wrongly. Just because your brain is thinking it does not make it true.
That is so powerful. Wow, to do the opposite. Can you give some
Mhm.
examples of what are things that come up for you that your brain may be telling you something and then you decide to do the opposite?
I'll give you a great example. When I was recording all of these classes for my app launch, I was in a bubble, right? I wasn't telling anybody about the app yet. I couldn't really talk about it yet. And so I'm recording class after class, and I hit such a wall. I hit such a slump in the process because I started to doubt myself. I mean, I've been teaching for over a decade, but now this is different. This is something I've invested my own money in. This is completely founded of my own bank account. I did not take on any institutional investors. So we are full female foundering it on this one.
Good for you. Good for you.
Great and scary, but wonderful. And there was a moment where I started to believe the smaller version of myself. I started to believe, oh, maybe I'm not good enough. I had worked in an environment previously in my career where I was told, you're replaceable. There was some pretty toxic, awful things said. And I was choosing to believe some of those nuggets. But at that moment, I had my little cry. I was recording a class and I just hit a wall and I was breaking down on camera, and the wild part is I have to upload my own content. So then I watched that back. I was gonna go delete it, and I watched myself hit a wall. And it was interesting when you invert, because it was almost like watching your friend hurt. It didn't feel as personal in the moment. I got to see it as a viewer. I got to see it how I would see if one of my girlfriends was having a tough day, or if my boyfriend was having a breakdown, or someone in my family. And my immediate reaction was like, "What are you doing? That was great." And I could depersonalize the experience. And it was such an aha moment to say, wow, what I experienced in that moment in my head was so different than the truth of what I was creating or trying to create in that moment. And so it gave me a big realization that it's pushing past that perceived wall. It is breaking that, like, quote unquote glass ceiling. I think the irony about glass ceilings is I think oftentimes, sometimes we believe that they're there when they're not. We place them there because maybe society told us that's where the limit is, but it just takes like a step. It's not real. It's kind of this figment of our imagination oftentimes, where we keep our boundaries and our borders because that's where we know to be safe. But when we live that way, we're operating from such a place of fear rather than a place of opportunity. I think that's the biggest thing for women in particular today. I just would want to encourage anybody to say, ask yourself, am I operating from this belief about myself? Is it a fear based thought, or is it a thought of my own actual ability? Is it my belief in myself? Would you tell your friend to stay small? Would you tell your friend to play it safe? And if you would tell them to go after what they're doing, why aren't you doing the same yourself? So, a roundabout way of saying, I think really true growth happens in that courage that it takes to go that little bit more, to be a tad more vulnerable, or to be a tad more open, or to take a slightly bigger risk. And if you can keep doing that day by day, and I think a way that we can practice that is through movement and through breath work and meditation, then it makes those life decisions less scary because we've built a muscle that prepares us. Our brain already knows, oh, I know how to survive this. I know I've come out on the other side of this because I've had little training sessions to lead me to this moment.
I think it's really hard for people to sometimes know the difference. Is this a fear based thought? Is this
Mhm.
reality? A lot of people might look at the fear based thought and say, that is reality. That is the truth. Well, when have I ever launched an app before? Why would I be any good at it? We confuse evidence, or like what our brain's searching for is evidence, with
Yes.
fear. And so it's really hard for people to, I think, know this is a logical reaction versus this is a fear based thought that's holding me back. So, what
Yeah.
advice would you have for being able to actually get rid of those fear based thoughts, even when they really feel real?
I think the first thing is to sit with yourself with the feeling. That's something I'm really working on is allowing myself to actually feel it. So often it gets uncomfortable or that fear-based thought comes up and it's not fun. The monster under the bed came out and you want to run away, but now you need to sit there and look at it. And maybe there's more of a story there. So a lot of it's sitting with the feeling and allowing yourself, like if it scares you, if the thought about building a business or going for that new chapter in your life or wanting to make a big change, if that scares you, sit with it, cry about it, be a woman about it. That's one of the best things is that we're able to have such a deep emotional life. I think it's a blessing and a curse sometimes to feel so much, but I think that's also one of our superpowers as women is to be able to have that. And so allow yourself to sit and feel. And I think it is partly the depersonalization that happens when you get into your breath. So, fun little neuroscience fact. I'm not a neuroscientist, by the way. I'm just a total nerd. And I love like reading every white paper. I'm so weird about it. If I could go back to school and operate a business, I so would. But when you are in a state of fight or flight, you are operating out of your amygdala, which is like this tiny little small almond-sized part in your brain. It's very tiny because it's primal and it doesn't need a lot of blood flow because it's deep and it's instinctual. But when we're being creative and calm and relaxed, we're in our frontal lobe. And our frontal lobe, when it's oxygenated, AKA when we're breathing, we're getting enough oxygen through the nose, out of the nose, and back into the brain, we can have more of a clear picture. So, you know how you've probably heard the testament, don't make a decision stressed or don't make a decision scared.
Right.
You're in your amygdala, you're not ready to make the decision. So, the way to get out of that and to give yourself space to understand what is fear based and what's not is to use your breath, allowing yourself to ground back into the moment, get present back into the body. Not always can we go for a run, but if we're in a work environment or we're stuck in traffic in our car, your nostrils are the coolest thing ever. You can inhale for 4, you can exhale for 6 through the nose, calm, gentle, low, and slow, and you'll oxygenate your frontal lobe. And all of a sudden, what will happen is when you focus on the breath, you'll get enough distance where you can see the full image. It's no different than like that. What was that one? It's like pointillism. It was in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, where they were really close to the painting and they couldn't
Mhm.
tell what it was. And then as you zoom out, you can see the full picture. When
Yes.
we in our fear-based mind, we're way too close to the frame. Our nose is literally touching the canvas. And so if we can work with ourselves simply just through breathing and giving ourselves a little bit of space and allowing ourselves to emotionally feel whatever's going on, we get enough distance from it. We can then decipher, is this fear-based? Is this not? Is this just me pushing myself into a new territory and I'm uncomfortable and I need to build some new skills? Or is it, yeah, girl, this is not the time to do it. Let's build a bit more of a nest egg and then we'll do it in 4 months.
That's amazing advice. It actually is such a great example, you being able to witness yourself on camera, kind of have this hitting a wall moment, being really close to the canvas versus separate. It's like you are able to see the problem separately from you instead of in it. I think even just like separate yourself from the emotion, like obviously you have to feel it, but then there's this certain powerful thing when you do zoom out and you do take those breaths and then you are able to see the big picture that you can
Yeah.
almost watch yourself just like you watched yourself on camera, where it almost doesn't feel like that's you. You can be like, oh, I understand this feeling is not me. Like, I don't know if you've heard that quote of, we are not the clouds passing the sky. We are
Yes.
the sky and our thoughts are the clouds. You can see, like, oh, that's just a cloud. That's not me. I am the sky. This is just a cloud. This is a thought that's going to pass. But we can only do that when we are able to zoom out and see the big picture.
Yeah, it's switching your placement. It's changing
Mm.
if you were to think of this visually, it's exactly what you said. It's changing your perspective. There's a really great book called, oh gosh, I took a class called The Science of Happiness. I wanna say it's the happiness, oh, I'm blanking on it. I will send it to you or share with what it is. But it's a really great metaphor about an elephant and a rider. We as human beings are the rider of the elephant, but our emotional state and our brain and how everything processes is the elephant. So when the rider is at peace, he can steer the elephant in any direction that he wants. But if he allows the elephant to lead, he'll trample anything. He might fall off and get hurt. Our brain's job is to think, just like our muscles' job is to contract, just like our digestive system, our heart, everything has a function. And what's kind of wild about being like such sentient beings is because the brain thinks, we believe that the brain thinking must be true every time. But really, we're at the control deck at the end of the day. We still get to discern which thoughts, but to build the ability to have that distance, you have to find practice in the space. Otherwise, you just think you're another thought. Like, what's the separation between your like conscious mind and the brain being the brain? There are two separate things, but how do we develop a little bit of air between the two? And it is breathing practices are really helpful. Even sometimes just putting it down, closing the phone. I have this addiction too. I'm really working on it, but social media truly is just a very triggering experience. It's built to be a quick dopamine hit center, or it's also built to a lot of it's rooted in fear. It's a scare tactic headline. It's a 3-second hook that says, if you're not doing this, you should. I mean, if you spend 5 minutes on TikTok or Instagram, you're convinced you need to buy something, you need to do a new workout, you need to dye your hair blue, like whatever it is, there's such a sense of urgency on the internet. But then when we put our phones down and we literally create space there, it doesn't affect us because we're not being pulled into it. So I would say, imagine your brain is like your smartphone and you're doom scrolling. But at the end of the day, you're the one holding the phone. You can still put it down.
That's so powerful. You are in control. You are the rider of the elephant, not the
Mhm.
elephant.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Wow. So, especially, in this world, and I'm really curious from your perspective because fitness and the world that you're in is
Mhm,
still very can be appearance based, a lot of pressure on here's how you look. So for you who have done so much to be the rider on your elephant and get control of that elephant and
mhm.
feel like your elephant can calm down and you have a little more control over it, how do you not let your worth be defined by how you look or perform?
Yes. It's amazing, I think, in today's world, how much effort it takes to just not subscribe. And to be honest, I haven't conquered it. There are days when I love going on the internet and I can share authentically what I think is going on and what my thoughts and perspectives are. But now, when you share anything, whether you're public facing or not, it doesn't even matter. Everyone can go viral. So then you're met with a horde of people who just want to yell at you or say negative things. And then what comes up? That shame voice, that voice that says to make yourself smaller, let me not speak, let me not show up as myself because look at all the negativity I receive. So I think what's really important in today's world is to cultivate a full routine for yourself beyond the digital and beyond external validation. Building internal validation is everything. And it is a practice and it is a lifelong journey. The older that I get, the more life I live, the more I truly do start to love myself. 5 years ago, could I say the same thing? Absolutely not. 2 years ago, could I say the same thing? Not in the same way. I think a lot of that comes from developing both a gentle mental practice with myself and then really working on how do I speak to myself? If I'm going to put that phone down, or if the elephant, let's say, the elephant being my brain, is really noisy and loud, well, I'm the writer. How do I calm it? What do I do? What I can do for my own voice is take those breaths, do a little breath work, do some movement, but I need to start talking to myself differently. Am I going to yell at the elephant that's freaking out and expect it to calm down? No. I'm gonna have to console it and be gentle to it and be kind to it. Or maybe it needs food. Most of the time with me, I do need food. So building that self-esteem, being able to build the discernment between what the world is telling us we need to be and judging ourselves and comparing ourselves, we're able to have a bit of armor around that when we have a healthy practice with ourselves as women, as individuals. And that's something that we have to cultivate. And it's not to put pressure on somebody, but it's to encourage somebody when you wake up in the morning, doing 3 minutes of meditation or of a quick breathing, writing down 3 things you're grateful for, walking in front of the mirror. And yeah, maybe the hair is crazy. Maybe there's a zit. Maybe there's all these other things or wrinkles and all that. But how beautiful it is that you have another day, or there's light in your eyes, or it's really trying to navigate that reframe, because it takes courage to go into the world today and to fight against it, to fight against all of these factors that tell us to be quiet, be small, and believe that you're less. I just want to see women continue to rebel against it by taking care of and honoring who they are. And that comes with a balance between mental and physical practice.
And I love that you call it a practice too, like this practice of self validation. Cause I think a lot of us define that as a feeling, that it's like we're just going to feel, oh, I'm so confident. Oh, I'm so worthy. Oh, I don't need external validation. Like we think that it's this feeling that we're just going to experience one day, when in reality, it's the practice. It's doing these things that you're talking about. It's every single day you're doing this. And I also love that you said 2 years ago, wouldn't have loved myself this much. I think we should all live in
Yeah.
a way that in 2 years from now, we will look back at ourselves and be like, oh, I didn't love myself then as much as I love myself now, because we are doing the practice of it, not because we're
Right.
waiting for the feeling, but because we're practicing it so much that then
Yeah.
we eventually are like, whoa, I love myself. I feel so much more secure now than I ever
Mhm.
thought I could have years ago. And that's because it's a practice. We're not waiting for the feeling.
Yeah. And then you listen to your own voice.
Yes.
It's very important to start to tap in and listen to, what do you even really want? The whole world, social media constantly, every new thing tells us something. There's a message, an underlying message. Buy this, be that, lose this, fit that. It's exhausting. As human beings, we are not built to consume that way, which is the wild part. We technically are supposed to only be able to hold about 100 close relationships in our life. 100 people. That's like the capacity from what's been studied supposedly of how the circle of human connection. Look at how many people are like, if I get less than 100 likes on a photo, I freak out, or less
So
than
true.
X comments. I mean, how many people who follow you or follow me or anybody, do you have real relationships with them? No, it's impossible to. It's not because they're not wonderful people, but you just don't have the capacity to. So much of, I think, learning to self validate is also keeping the promises that you make to yourself. And I've fallen to this too. It feels like everything's a to do list. And if I don't complete the to do list, then I failed. And if I failed, then that little shame voice comes up. And then I take 2% out and I make myself a little bit smaller. But it's the simple things. If I told myself, hey, you know what? I don't want to wake up. I'm working on my morning routine right now and trying to get up earlier. So I'm starting to make little wins. Okay, 5 minutes earlier the next day on the alarm clock, 5 minutes earlier the next day. I know I can do 5 minutes. So I'm going to win that. And I'm going to keep that promise to myself, because if I keep that promise to myself, it allows me to show up for everybody else in my life, because I know that I did that for me first. I know that I have the capacity because I proved it with myself first. And so much, I think, as women, we're told to be there for everybody else. And we take pride, I think, a lot in that. I know I do. I love being of service and support and emotional support to the people in my life. But I truly cannot be that woman. I cannot be the woman I want to be unless I first can be an example of keeping my own promises.
Hmm.
I can't promise outward unless I'm secured in what I told myself I would do for me. And it's not selfish. It's actually it's the foundation. You can't give more until you set that. And I would want to encourage any woman to know, like, make a small promise to yourself, a small thing, small task. It could be, I'm going to say in the morning before I open my phone, I'm going to do a gratitude journal. I'm going to say 3 simple things that I'm grateful for. And I'm going to commit to doing that for 3 weeks. Make it actionable, make it reasonable. And it's interesting because once one of those habits gets conquered, once you keep that one promise to yourself, you can add another. And then you can add another. And then in time, you'll recognize, oh my gosh, I feel so valid in who I am because I know I set these little win opportunities for myself and I took them and I did it. So if I can do that with me, I can do that externally. I can do that at my job. I can do that in my relationship. I can do that with my family, my friends, if you have kids. and it expounds, but the seed starts at home.
And that's how you get used to the feeling of prioritizing yourself, even when it doesn't
Yeah.
feel easy. Yes, you start practicing that. I've always known how important sleep is for my skin and well being, but actually winding down at night, that's the hard part. That changed when I started using Osea's Dream Collection. The Dream Night Serum and the Dream Night Cream are now staples in my nighttime routine. Powered by bioretinol, they help reduce visible signs of stress like dryness and dullness while I sleep. My skin feels nurtured and I feel more ready to rest. And the newest star of my nighttime lineup is Osea's new Dream Bioretinol Body Serum. It's a full body restorative treatment powered by bioretinol, red seaweed, magnesium, and lavender. I use it before bed and wake up with skin that feels noticeably firmer, smoother, and more radiant. It helps reduce visible signs of stress like dryness, dullness, and lack of firmness without the irritation that can come with traditional retinol. Give your skin a rest with clean, clinically tested skincare from Osea. Get 10% off your first order site-wide with code TheEverygirl at OseaMalibu.com. For people who struggle to get into an exercise routine, what is your advice for women that are trying to shift from I have to work out, it's a thing I should, those shoulds again, I
Yep.
should
Yep.
do, to I get to move, I love to move, I look forward to movement? How do you make that switch?
I think the first thing is movement is personalized. So not every form of movement is going to work for every person. I wish I could be a runner. I would love that. These short little dachshund legs I have and these hips, not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Okay. They creak, they crack. I'm a sprinter. I was built to go short distances at full force, not long distances at a nice, easy pace. So I'm acknowledging that with myself. But for me, I know, okay, a certain form of movement that I enjoy, something as simple, I just go for walks in the morning. Nothing crazy. Even if it's like a 5 minute or a 10-minute walk, movement starts small. You can always add another 5 minutes. You can always add a weight to something. You can always get to that class. But first, I'd say just start with the small things. I think the importance of going for a walk, putting the phone away, maybe listen to a podcast that you love, or maybe listen to some really calming, lovely music. But there's something to be said for simply just beginning with a walk. And then always give yourself a bit of a delayed dopamine response. Our brains are very wired to have quick dopamine hits because of how we're on social media, news. So the more you can start to build a practice to delay dopamine until you complete a special task, you'll get that reward system and that will help you stay solid on that path. So I would say if the goal is movement, say, I'm going to go for a 10-minute walk when I wake up in the morning. Or you can start with 5 minutes. Wait to have the coffee that you love, that I love. The coffee comes after you complete the walk. And that's the rule. It's no different than what we would do if, I hate to say this to call us, to compare to dogs, but like, you're not going to give your dog a treat for wagging its tail and being cute. You're going to give your dog a treat once they complete the task that they were supposed to do. So it's okay to do that with yourself too. So if you're trying to get into movement, what's the dopamine that comes with it? And then it becomes a part of the daily routine. That 5-minute walk will turn into 10 minutes. That 10-minute walk might turn into a 15-minute at-home Pilates class, or doing some crunches, or maybe lifting some weights, because it just starts to build upon itself. But the number one thing is that you always delay the reward until after you've completed that task. And it can be very small, but small steps and scale up. And I think it's a helpful way to kind of give a framework to bridge that gap.
Those are genius tips. When you have the reward after, then you start to associate it with pleasure. It starts to be like, I love the feeling of after my morning walk when I get my coffee. And so your brain starts thinking, oh, when I go on the walk, it's so pleasurable because of that pleasure you get from the coffee afterwards. It like starts to associate with it.
Yes. And they become partnered. So the idea of movement, also you get the payoff. And the payoff is actually what becomes the most addicting feeling. And the challenge that a lot of people find with fitness is that when they're just getting into the beginning of a journey, or they're trying to shift from being less active to being more active, the payoff takes time to build in the body. The endorphins take time to build. So that initial first 4-6 week period of starting a new habit can be very difficult because you're doing it. You're not seeing maybe results yet. You're not necessarily feeling totally better yet. It's all compounding. It's all working. It's all coming together. So if you can cheat the system a little bit and give yourself a reward that you can control, so that coffee after the movement, then it becomes associated with that. And then I will say what will sometimes happen is then you just start wanting coffee whenever you want to work out. But there are worse
There are worse
things happen.
things. Yes, there are worse
There are worse
things.
things. I would rather you move and enjoy the caffeine, and that's the way it always goes. So
Yeah, pick and choose your battles, right? That's interesting, especially talk about building a habit. This episode's going to come out in January when a lot of people are setting their New Year's resolutions. And statistically speaking, over 80% of people fail their resolutions by February. They forget about them, they lose motivation. Why
yep.
is that? Why are we so motivated to set these goals and then can so easily not build these habits or lose the motivation to achieve the goal to begin with?
Oftentimes the goal that's being set is too vast. It's I'm gonna eat healthy, I'm gonna quit drinking, I'm gonna work out 5 days a week, I'm gonna be nice to my partner, even though when they're annoying me. Like we pile on the stuff. Like, listen, you can do all of those things, but I'm gonna level set here. I would be shocked if you did all of those things, made all those changes simultaneously when you've had a lifestyle that's been different before. It's just not a realistic expectation. So I think sometimes too, we set these hyper unrealistic goals because there's a safety in knowing if it doesn't happen, oh well. I think we all have this internal fear of if I actually do it, what happens?
Mm.
So take the pressure off. Pick one thing. One thing. I want to move in the mornings and I want to start incorporating fitness more into my routine. Great. That is your one goal. You're going to start with 5 minutes a day and you're going to do that delayed dopamine response. And you're going to have something that you do after you complete that. And you're just going to focus on that. It's making the small promises. Truly. Then, if you complete that, wonderful. Then next month, set a new challenge. What's the new goal? Is it, okay, great. I have my movement. I like doing that in the morning. I have my delayed dopamine that I get from my reward. Can I add 3 minutes of deep breathing after or while I'm having my coffee? Then you add another element to it. I'm sure you've heard the trope. People overestimate what they can do in a year and they underestimate what they can do in 5. That's exactly it. So the problem is that it's very hard for us to think long term because it's too vast of a sum to compute for us, right? When we have all these little moments that are broken down into the day. So instead of saying in a year from now, everything in my life is going to be different because I'm going to do these 18 things. If you were to write all of those goals down or all those things you want to change or improve upon, what is the number one thing that you think is the most actionable that will give you the most personal payoff? That's your goal. I don't want you to add anything else. And then you go to the least challenging lift and you just master that for 3-4 weeks. Then you add a tiny little bit more. Attack that, get that done for 3-4 weeks. And that's how it builds. What will happen is, ironically, all those other to-dos or wants will naturally start to come in because you're already changing the seed of your lifestyle. So once you do that, other things just shift inherently. You won't want to go out too late on the weekends because you're like, well, I have my 5-minute, 10-minute walk I do in the morning. I don't want to feel gross for it. So no, it's okay. We're going to, meet you guys for dinner, but we're not going to go out for drinks after. That comes inherently because of that simple promise you kept to yourself. And so that's why I say always simplify it down and make sure that you have the delayed dopamine. Do not set crazy goals. Small, snackable, actionable, tiny little bits of goals. That's all we want.
So you would say instead of, in 2026, I'm going to run a marathon even or lose 20 pounds or whatever. Instead, it would be, what are you going to do right now to work towards that? So instead of I'm going to run a marathon, I'm going to start going on a walk every single morning starting right now. It's so
Absolutely.
true. When we were I'm going to run a marathon, I'm going to lose 20 pounds. It's this far off thing. That future self is like a stranger to us. We have no association with that person who actually has run a marathon or lost 20 pounds. So we have to focus on who we are now and what we're going to do now that yes, then can inch there, but it's starting really small with what we can start doing, those action steps now.
It's what's the next most actionable step. So if you were to reverse engineer it, right? Let's say the goal is to run a marathon. Well, there's a lot that goes into that. It's marathon prep and training, but it's also getting your body prepared for it. That's a lot of mileage. It's a lot of road runs to lead up to it. If someone doesn't consider themselves a long distance runner yet, I don't consider myself a long distance runner. I'm very fit. Could I do it if I really wanted to? Yes. But I would have to make some significant changes into my lifestyle to do so and to train for it because that's just not where my current state is at. So for that, I would reverse engineer. Okay, how much time do I have? What are the milestone moments that will get me to that place? And then just work backward. Go to the easiest, most simplest thing that is in that direction. When you're going for a goal, a lot of people think of the end result. They don't think of what the road looks like getting there and where would you take the first step. Always consider where the first step is. Tilt your body in the direction of where the goal is, and you got to walk. You got to walk before you run. You got to run before you run a marathon. So I think all of those things are very important to understand that those things come inherently, but you have to just stack the small, tiny wins every single day by a simple habit. So instead of focusing on the tree that will grow, focus on the seed. What first has to be there? What's the most simple, if you were to parse it down to its core? Running, marathon, the core of it is getting more movement in. So how do I get more movement in and how do I make that snackable for tomorrow? How do I make it snackable for the day after that? How to make it snackable for the day after that? And it will grow. It will work.
Reverse engineering any goal is so genius too, because it starts to really become, I know the exact blueprint. Whereas I feel like when we do have these far off goals, and also kind of what you said about like there is like a little bit of the fear of like what actually does happen if we did accomplish that goal, what actually would happen. Like, do I actually want to be running a marathon? Because there's a lot of fear in that. That also sounds scary. So like
Mhm.
there is
Yeah.
like the self-sabotage subconsciously of it all is also really interesting too. But when we have these far off goals that feel like something in the future, then it's becomes like so unattainable, it doesn't make any connect to us. So like starting with here is the exact blueprint to get there. You know, we can question all day, okay, I want to run a marathon. Will I actually do that? I don't know how I'm going to do that. When you reverse
What if I get
engineer it,
injured? What if I don't have the
what
shoes?
if I
What if
get
the weather's
injured?
bad? The what if monster comes in and it will
Yeah,
hold you back. And guess what? There are so many what ifs, but our brain, our lovely brain, is trying to protect us and wants us to be in safe environments that it's already experienced. It's hard for the brain to consider where we're going to go and what the possibility is. Another thing that's, I think, very important when you're attaining a goal like that, something that's seems inherently out of reach or quite a far reach, something that's very different than your current reality, is taking the time while you're breathing to envision it, to feel it. What are you going to feel like when you're running your marathon? The power of visualization, the power of allowing your brain to wander. We allow our brain to wander and catastrophize the worst case scenarios and everything that we do if. But really ask yourself, how many times have you taken that energy and say, "Oh, what happens if it works? How am I gonna feel when I accomplish this?" And what's really cool about the brain is that it will look for confirmation bias. So if you spend enough time visualizing what it's going to be like when you're running that marathon, what it's going to be like when you're crossing mile 23, who's going to be there cheering you on, how proud you're going to feel, the roar of the crowd, you can get really emotional and descriptive with it. Play music, play the same song when you're visualizing it. Your brain will connect to the song and go back to that emotional state. It's incredible what we can do. And so when you go there, the brain then looks for evidence on how do I complete that feeling? Because I now know that. The brain goes, oh, that's a safe experience because I've felt it.
you've
The brain doesn't know
experienced
the
that.
difference.
Yeah.
Look fair. The incredible thing about our brains is that what we think we believe. So if your brain has already experienced running the marathon successfully and how you felt, it will then help look for signals, look for signs as you're going through life that will help you get back to that experience. Because it thinks, oh, one plus one, this goes together. It's always just trying to make patterns and match. So taking the time to prep your brain and to daydream thoughtfully into whatever your goal is actually really, really, really powerful. There's a reason so many Olympic athletes, Naomi Osaka did this. So many athletes did it, and they would write in a journal about what they would feel like. Coco Gauff did it. It's so cool when you see how the power of visualization is a real tool. And your favorite athletes do it all the time. That's what's helped them win gold medals, be the GOAT of whatever sport, because they trained their brain to prepare themselves for it.
For anyone, like the top
Mhm.
CEOs, I'm sure they have to, whether
Yes.
they're conscious of it or not, they're having the visualization before they enter this meeting or this presentation. They're visualizing it going well, not the, oh my God, what if this happens? What if this happens that our brain normally goes to? But here is how it looks and feels like for me to be crushing this presentation or crushing this workout or winning the gold medal or going at this speed. Like you're
Yep.
visualizing what could go right.
And here's where it all ties back together, is that when you're in a state of what if and fear, you're in your amygdala. When you're in the state of visualization, it is not possible to be in your amygdala. You're in your frontal lobe. That's where the creative mind is. That's where all of this visualization happens. So what's very fascinating is that it will help bypass those negative feelings when you're in that visualization state, because you're literally priming your brain and you're downloading from your creative mind what you want to see the outcome become. So your brain then will take action from your frontal lobe. Your amygdala, your brain is just responding to stimuli and like, oh, we're scared. We need to protect. Let's just go back to protection mode. But when you're in your frontal lobe, that's where you can start to plant seeds of things and create entirely new lives and realities and all those incredible goal setting, and where you can attain them is from the front part of your brain. It's not from your amygdala. So visualize. It changes everything.
So if someone is looking at this year ahead and is like, this is the year I want to change my life, maybe this is the year they want to finally get in the fitness routine that they were never able to get into before, or prioritize their body, or hit a career goal, whatever it is, what would be the exact routine that you would do to start
Mhm.
working toward these goals?
I love it. And I'm going to really simplify it down because you can get very complex and you could add this and this and this and this. Number one, I would say isolate yourself somewhere before the new year, or as we're in the new year. You can do this whenever. You could do this in the middle of July. Okay. You don't have to wait for a new year to start a new goal,
So
and
true.
to do habit. So remember that. You can always hit reset too. I would take some time, sit in the quiet, do some breathing, get into a nice state of relaxation. So inhaling through the nose for 4, exhaling through the nose for 6. Do that for a little bit. And then really say, what is whatever that thing is that you want, whatever that goal is. Visualize first off how great it feels when you obtain that goal. Daydream about it, the emotions of it, how you're going to feel, what life is going to be like. Just really daydream about what that existence would be. Then after you go through that visualization, parse it down to what is the next most simple step I can take towards that? What is one small habit or one small action that I can do daily that will get me in that direction of what I visualized? You identify what that simple thing is. You put a reward just after it, like that delayed dopamine, whether it be coffee, whether it be maybe, a couple minutes of reading your favorite book or show, and you stick to that and you just say, okay, great. I know what my long-term goal is. I'm going to visualize it. I have my small actionable step, and I'm just going to master that small actionable step. And I'm going to trust that the visualization that I have, the emotions I feel about it, will help guide me there. And then check in throughout every week or so. Give yourself a few minutes, do that breathing and visualize. Let yourself daydream. If you really want extra credit, write it down in a journal. Write down, oh, today I completed the marathon and this is how I felt. And write physically it down, how you felt, what happened, who was there, how your body felt, what color you were wearing. Make it as vibrant and visual as possible and keep writing that down. Do that weekly, follow that small step. And truly, my favorite thing is watching people be like, oh my gosh, like I usually hit snooze 18 times and now I just pop out of bed. It's like, yeah, because you built a small actionable habit that you won, and it is driving in the direction of what your dream or what your goal is. And it'll just correct you. It's just a gentle guide. It's a gentle push in that direction.
And even when you focus on those things, then like you were saying earlier, then it will snowball into more. Then your life starts changing because your identity is changing. You're becoming the person who has that life. So even if you're only focused on one goal, your
Yep.
reality is shifting around you.
And it will shift based off of the energy of what that initial seed thought was, what that initial goal was. So, for example, if it's a marathon, and this is why I love when this happens because it always does, you'll be like maybe going for a morning walk, or maybe it turns into a morning jog and you'll bump into somebody. Oh, I'm training for this marathon. No way. I want to train for this marathon. Now you have a running buddy. They then have new friends instead of the friends that you love, but maybe they party a lot and it's hard to keep that relationship. Now you have a new friend group that's bringing you in, has shared goals and shared vision. It all just compiles and snowballs like that. It's a fascinating thing. And I've had so many different iterations, I would say, of like my own life and how I feel like I joke with my friends, I'm like a cat. Every 4 years, I feel like I morph into a new person and I'm like, oh, who's this now? But it's a great thing because it just keeps getting more layered and it keeps expanding. And if I were to go back and tell my youngest self that, and when I went through that depressive period, it's that there's always reinvention. There's always more. So what I thought was the end of the road was actually just literally the launch pad for understanding how all of these seeds would then build into something so much greater. And
Mm.
I'll tell you, like, we could talk 5 years from now and I'll be like, "Oh, here's what I'm doing now. Here's this whole new place." And it's an exciting way to live life when you recognize you can keep reinventing and keep growing and keep evolving. It's just listening to yourself, what you choose you wanna do, and taking small steps towards it.
There is so much life to be lived, and it's our
Abs
job, our duty to ourselves to get out of our own way to live it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you can get out of your own way kindly. It's a very human thing to be in your way. So don't forget that. Don't feel bad about yourself for it. We all do it. We all fight it every day. But that's part of like trying to conquer being human a little bit. It's trying to get past some of those limitations that we feel and find out what's on the other side.
It's so true. Okay, wow, that is like the best blueprint for anyone to accomplish any goal. Kendall, we are going to wrap up with some rapid fire questions, okay?
Let's
First question, a word, affirmation, or an energy that you are claiming and bringing into 2026.
The word expansion.
Ooh, I love expansion.
We've been talking about a lot about seeds, and I just see like this big thing blooming and layer after layer after layer after layer. I see that expansion for 2026 for
Oh,
sure.
that's so good. What is one physical and one non-physical result of fitness that has changed your life the most?
Physical result of fitness, I would say I am very muscular and I love it. I used to be so embarrassed when I was in like gymnastics and all that. I had very strong thighs, what one would call thunder thighs. A kid on the playground called me a bullfrog, which ki- I know, but you know,
Kids are
okay,
such
bullfrogs.
assholes.
I know kids really are. He's just kind of a dick. But they have great if you were to look at like if someone's legs look like a frog's, you're like, wow, they're really defined. So I would say I'm so proud of my muscle because it took me a long time to be proud of it. So I'm really proud of my muscle.
I love that.
What was the other part? The
And
non-physical?
non-physical.
Oh, you know what? It's the community it's brought. I've had
Ooh.
peace be brought into my life by connecting to people through movement. And I've been able to express emotionally some of the things I was going through in class. And then it also, that was even a deeper connection to the community. So I would say the bond that's been shared with others through fitness has been just the
Mm,
best.
that's life-changing for sure.
Yeah, completely.
What is a routine or ritual that has made the biggest difference for you lately?
Gratitude journaling. I open up my app because this was one thing I was like, I told our developers, we have to have this because this is the single most important thing I do in the morning. And so we have a little quick gratitude journal. You can fill it out. There's 3 different things. There's an affirmation that you write to yourself for the day. And then there's a spot to have just a thought about maybe it's a dream, maybe it's a vision, maybe you had a weird dream about a butterfly, put it there. And I do that without fail every single morning, and it just primes my brain every day to put in good first before I catastrophize anything. I choose to see the gratitude.
That is so genius to have that right there in the app. That is so
It's
genius.
on the home screen. You open it up and you're like, scroll, it's right there, get it done, and it's done. And it really does. It's been a practice I learned through therapy that has really, really helped me in my mental health.
Best piece of advice you've ever received?
My great grandma told me this before she passed, actually. I don't know why this is what just popped in 'cause it's
Mm.
been a long time. But she said, whatever will be anyway. You keep your faith. That was a good one.
Wow.
She had spidey senses about things of what I was going through before anybody ever knew. And I think it's so true that we can foreshadow and see the negativity that could come up and we can convince ourselves of everything that can go wrong. But I truly do believe life happens in your favor. And if it's not this, there will be something greater. It will be replaced by something greater. It will evolve into something greater with more meaning. And so you just keep your faith in that daily and you're never steered wrong.
And I feel like it's such a good kind of antidote to anxiety too, because so much of anxiety is like the fear of what we can't control. Like, oh, we feel like we
Yes.
have to hold on and control everything. And then we get anxiety when
Yep.
we feel like we can't. So just that reminder of like, we actually don't need to have control. It will all be okay. It will work out in our
Take your hands
favor.
off the wheel. It'll still go. It'll
Hands
still go.
off the wheel. Last question, a book, a movie, or a show, podcast, anything that changed your life the most?
Probably The Alchemist. I think that was great, and The Four Agreements was really great as well.
Okay, a couple of people have recommended that one.
Yeah, if you haven't read it, it's really lovely. I think it's very helpful if you're especially as you grow and navigate and things can start to feel really personal. One of my favorite agreements is that don't take anything personally. And I think it helps give you the space, like what we were talking about earlier about giving you the distance. When you understand that most people walk through the world and however they react is a response to how they feel internal, what's going on inside, what their internal weather is, it changes how you receive maybe someone's negativity or maybe someone's energy. It's likely not personal to you. And usually if it is, you'll know, and they tend to make that very clear. So
Yeah,
if you're not sure if it's personal, I just always say it's not.
and it's
It's
not.
literally not. It's a reflection of what they're doing. So yeah, I would say those 2 books, but there's so many good ones. It's so hard.
This is the hardest question. I know. It's like torture
Yeah.
that I even asked
Oh,
it.
oh, wait. I do have a song. I have a song that I think everybody should listen to,
What?
and it is Nina Simone sang it. Listen to her version of I Shall Be Released. It
Okay,
is
I don't think I've ever heard
full of
this.
still cry. Again, it's about letting go. It's about accepting everything that's happened in your life thus far, what's brought you there, and letting yourself say, "Okay, it is what it is. I am me. I am good. I am safe. I am whole, and I will be released from whatever anything else has put on me." It's having that self-fulfillment. I think that song is incredible. It's incredible. I'm literally tearing up thinking about that song. Like, you listen to
That's
that
how
song.
you know it's
You'll cry.
good. Oh my
Yeah, I'm
god.
like, "Oh, I'm emotional thinking about it." Yeah. And her voice, I mean, it just floors it's stunning.
Oh,
Nina
okay.
Simone is like a button to my heart. She's the best, so,
I literally am gonna listen to that as soon as we get off this call and sob
yeah.
and think of you. You're gonna
Throb and rip 'em out. It's so
ruin my
good.
day. I'm not gonna be able to do anything else.
It's good. Sometimes you gotta let it out. Feel it
Gotta let
all.
it
Feel it.
out. Gotta let the emotions out. Kendall, where can everybody find you and get this amazing app?
You can get the app from nkoclub.com. NKO stands for Never Knocked Out. It's my family phrase that got me through my mental health battle. So you can sign up through the website, or you can go to the Apple Store or Google Play. So we have 5 different modalities: boxing, strength, cycling, Pilates and Pilates sculpt, and then breathwork and mobility. There's lots of affirmations, there's a gratitude journal, and then we have 50 plus high protein, lovely recipes. And to be mindful, we have the macros hidden. So if someone wants to see the macros, they can. But if they want to keep that space and keep food intuitive, it's hidden unless somebody wants to see it. So we can really be respectful to all the different members of our community.
I love that feature. I am so freaking glad you have that. That's amazing.
It was
Wow.
a big conversation. It was like, you need the macros. I'm like, no, we don't. We don't count macros on my app. If someone wants to do that, they can go to a nutritionist or a dietitian, which I highly recommend. But I wanted food and nutrition to be explorative. I wanted it to be joyful, and I wanted it to be something that you find out of curiosity and not out of putting moral value on food. I think we need to
Yeah.
make that.
Trusting your body to tell you what it needs instead of numbers on a screen.
Absolutely. And also what sounds good. Like, what am I
Yeah.
craving? Great for a lot of ideas if you're stuck and not sure,
Oh my
which is
god.
me.
Yeah, I was gonna say that feels like every day. So amazing. Kendall, thank you so much. This was like the best motivating conversation ever.
Thank you so much. I loved having this chat, and this is motivating for me too. That's what's so beautiful about these conversations. I think every party feels good about it. So thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure. And here's to tackling those goals one tiny, 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 tiny step at a time.
One baby step at a time. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I know I sure did. Please do not forget to rate, review, and subscribe. It really makes a huge difference for our show so we can keep growing and bringing the content that you love. If you want more info, you can find us at the Everygirl Podcast on Instagram or theeverygirlpodcast.com. Talk to you next week.